All right. So what's up? It's been a couple weeks.
Has it been?
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. So we're here to talk about Mimic today. And I have a bunch of questions, bro.
All right.
So, first and foremost,
Let's do a rundown. You know what the type of book is. So
right. What is this?
This book.
Show people. That one.
This one here.
Yeah.
So this is only the second. This is the second one. I didn't bring the first one with me.
Yeah.
Right. This is it's going to be a trilogy, but as of right now, it is a post-apocalyptic science fiction adventure.
Okay.
Right. So humans, right, however many there are left, are brought to the brink of extinction due to an alien race of robots that are so technologically advanced that they can turn into everything and anything down to the molecular structure. If they were to turn into a human, they would simulate blood, nervous system, bones, all of the things that make up a human. If a doctor were to come and take a blood sample from them, it would come back as a human. They wouldn't even tell the difference because they can trick science. That's how advanced they are. They can mimic life, right? And the only downside to this is these aliens, right? They have a colored eye, and they're usually what is it called? Cycloptic. Mm-hmm. And the eye, there's different colors depending on the rank of the alien. And if you are an alien and you transform into a human, being that you are cycloptic, you are transforming your main eye into one of the eyes and making another one. And you can't really mimic that, so one of the eyes are going to be a different color. It's going to look natural, kind of, where there's not a glow to it unless you're getting angry or something, but it would be the default color of your eye.
Okay.
And so the humans are brought to the brink of extinction. Only the most fit and willing to fight people are really left. Like, there are kids and there are citizens, but those citizens, they're not really citizens, They're like backup, right? They don't want to fight, but they have to if they must, Then there's those that are willing to fight, and those are the ones that are out all the time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the main characters, the story is about two people mostly. There are two, there are characters that are around them that are just as important, but these are the main two for now. And it is Alexander Jason Watkins. He came from Human Base 5, which they call HBO 5. And the HBs are basically little settlements like barracks where humans that are left reside. And in the area where I am writing this universe, which is somewhere in America, I can imagine, there are 10 HBs.
10.
And
wow.
Each of them have their own what's the word I'm looking for? Fate.
What do you mean by fate?
Whatever happened to them. They all had something different happened to them.
So each base is going to succumb to some sort of bad outcome.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
Yep. So, first book, how to survive, because these super alien robots that can turn into anything, and they can also go invisible, and modern technology such as weapons and stuff have very little effect on them. So it's like, how do you survive? What do you do?
Why does modern technology have little effect on them?
Let me see. What was it? It's kind of like you see in Star Wars where nobody uses wheels. So for this, they're technologically advanced. They like technology and stuff, and they kind of keep records of all technology that can harm them. So they put up proper defenses for that. But for forgotten archaic technology, such like a sling, bow and arrow, and all of that stuff, they don't got really records of it, so they don't know how to properly defend themselves against.
Okay.
So humans, their fighting styles had to kind of devolve in order to take on this advanced threat, because the people forgot how bow and arrows work.
That's a pretty big. It's a pretty big weakness because
it may be a pretty big weakness, but the problem is they're fast.
Right.
Sure,
they're very strong.
They're fast. They're very strong. There's hundreds and thousands of them. You kill one,
more just comes.
More just comes.
I answer this right. So let's say I had a bow and arrow. How many arrows would it take to kill a mimic?
Well, it would depend on your accuracy.
So can you kill a mimic with one arrow?
You could, but you'd have to be incredibly lucky.
Where would you shoot them?
Typically the eyeball.
Oh my god. Well, how big is their eye?
Well, I mean, say the default pawn, right?
Okay.
They're like what, 8 feet?
Right.
That would make
That's crazy.
That would make their heads, like if my head, right? I think their head would be like right here and right here. It'd be this, right?
Okay.
That's how big. That's how long their head is, and this is the whole eye. So my face is how big their eye is.
That's maybe like the size of like a cantaloupe,
I suppose.
I guess.
But it's still not going to be easy because you see, there's a reason why cops always shoot the body.
Oh, it's hard to hit the head. It's a moving target.
If see, this is the eye. You got to shoot the eye.
Right.
Now you're doing all of this. Now what are you gonna do? I need to do math and predict the trajectory and the stuff and the speed, the drop
crazy.
and this. So
That's too much.
And by the time you're thinking about all of this, you got stabbed in the back because he was just distracting you. I forgot to mention the mimics have a thing where if they find themselves dominating in a fight, they tend to toy with you. If they don't see you as a threat anymore, they'll play with you.
Wow.
Yep, they would like that one time where they fight in the army.
Right.
And they're winning. So what they decide to do is have a troop of their side, their mimics, turn into backup for the opposing team, the humans, to come and help the humans fight the mimics. And it was supposed to boost the morale of the humans, like, yeah, we're gonna push them back to the next, yeah. Then it turns out, nope, it was just a joke, it was just a prank, bro. And then the humans started killing each other. Turns out those humans were mimics.
That was a super fun comic to create, I have to say, because at least for me, I was with you throughout the entire process of making the book, right? But when I was making the comic and you gave me that storyline to go with, I realized that mimics will do things that are completely out of their way just to be sadistic and manipulative and to really play and toy with their prey.
I kind of wanted to avoid a lot of tropes. Like, I wanted to give them some type of characteristics. I didn't want them to be like
just a mindless
Terminators only, they have personality, but it's suppressed by a program.
I was just about to mention that.
And they have wants, needs, and all of this other stuff. They're not a hive mind either. I never understood, like, in the Avengers, when these organic aliens were fighting these people, you kill the mothership, and then these organic aliens just drop dead because of some stupid hive mind nonsense. I'm like, that's awfully convenient.
Yeah,
that was very convenient. So for this, I tried to avoid that, where there is a program or a directive that can override their minds and make them more hive mind-esque. But if that program goes away, they're just going to be individuals again, right? You take out the leader, they'll still remain. They just will probably be a little bit unsure of what to do next.
Okay. So, I mean, they're more human in that way.
Yeah.
So, question: you mentioned a pawn, right? So, for people that don't know about mimic, what does that even mean?
Did I say pawn?
Yeah, you mentioned a pawn.
I don't even remember me saying that.
It
I
was
say a lot of things, and then I don't remember what I say after.
You mentioned it when you were talking about their appearance. So you said that the pawn
Oh,
amalgam.
yeah. So I decided to name the mimic aliens. They have different ranks, and so far we've been introduced. Oh, they're named after chess pieces, and so far we've been introduced to pawns, which are the ones that swarm, and for the people that fight the pawns, they like every time we win, it doesn't feel like a victory. You know, it's like we're killing so many pawns, but it doesn't feel as if we're gaining any ground
Because there's so many more.
There's so many more, and they're so easy to make.
Right.
Right. So those are the disposables, and they were the primary antagonist of the first book.
And prelude.
And prelude, yes, and prelude. And then we've also met the Rook. He's the thinker, right? He's like a mastermind and stuff like that. He's more powerful than the pawns, but he chooses not to get his hands dirty. He has more of a personality than him, though. He might be responsible for the hive mind algorithm that takes over their body.
Wow.
For now, because there are levels to this.
Right.
Right. He's just a Rook. We've also met.
Well, describe the Rook.
I mean, I said the bishop. What was I saying?
You said the Rook.
I said the Rook. The bishop is the thinker.
Oh, the bishop.
The bishop is the thinker, right? He's the one that's the mastermind behind all of this stuff. He's the planner, right, of this planet. He is supposed to take this planet. He has been, he's been in charge with conquering this planet. He's like...
Okay, so like a bishop's like a general?
I suppose. Well...
He controls his own separate armies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then, there's the Rook. The Rook is not like any other mimic. They're built like them, but they don't have a mind. Their purpose is to give power to the Rooks. Because even though the Rooks are more powerful than the pawns, it's not the strongest. And sometimes the Rook might find it necessary to get his hands dirty for a situation that is too great for him. That's where he uses his ultimate weapon, the Rook. And the Rook is he's the biggest. It's the biggest, and it's kind of gorilla-y. And its main purpose is to destroy its opposition.
So let me get this straight. So you have the pawn. The pawn is supposed to be like the infantry. They're at the bottom of the totem.
The grunts.
Right. They're just there to be many numbers.
They're there to die.
Overwhelm.
Yep.
And
to
fire,
swarm.
Right. So then you have the bishop. The bishop is essentially like the squadron leader or like the general. They're telling the pawns where to go for their section. And you're saying that the Rook is just this secret weapon.
Yep.
That bishops use when the pawns can't get the job done.
Yep.
So I'm assuming there probably aren't as many Rooks as there are pawns, because you said the pawns
no,
are really easy to make, right?
They're not Rooks. There's not that many Rooks.
Do they look different? Do the mimic? Is there any difference in appearance?
Yeah. So pawns, they're cone heads like this, right? The shape is like this. They got the eye in the middle.
All right.
And their eye color is green.
Okay.
Right. That's how you can tell. Now, for a bishop,
right.
Their heads are flat like this. They're like this, right? Like cone head, but sideways.
Like Hey Arnold?
Yeah, they're like Hey Arnold, but the ends of it comes out into like two antennae, kind of like horns.
Okay.
It goes out to the side of the head. Their eye color is red.
All right.
Now, the Rook is very different, because those points are supposed to be for communication. Mm-hmm. Where the Rook doesn't have any of that. It's a flat head. It goes down. It's a what's that called? A half circle.
Like a semicircle, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like the top of the head flat, and it comes down like that. And their eye color is orange. They're really big, and they have pretty much the same flat head design on their shoulders as well. Of course, it's bigger because their arms are massive,
Right.
and they're mostly brutish. They're
So if there's no antenna for the rook, right? How does the bishop get the rook to do it?
It's kind of like a remote. It's like let me see. When you connect to something, it's a permanent connection. It's not, you're not talking to anyone else or nobody else. It's just the rook and the bishop.
It's a direct line.
Yeah. Kind of like an Ethernet.
Okay.
But they're not connected. They found some other method. But it's not the same. Like, you wouldn't be able to communicate to a rook the same way you'd be able to communicate to another pawn or a bishop. They don't even talk.
That's strange. It's almost like the rook is another part of the bishop.
Basically, you'll never see a rook. You'll never see a bishop without a rook.
Like a guard dog.
Basically, and usually, if you don't see them around, they're around nearby. Like if you see because being that mimics can transform into anything.
Right,
if you see a rook exiting a small ship, that ship is the rook. I mean, if you see a bishop, damn it, why I keep saying that? If you see a bishop exiting a ship, right? It's not a landing craft and it's not the big mothership. It's like a personal ship. That's the rook.
The ship is the rook.
Yes, it transformed, and then it could transform into its gorilla form and then do whatever damage that it needs to do.
So what inspired you to make it take the form of like a gorilla?
Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, gorillas are cool.
That's it.
And I wanted to make a design to say, hey, these are brutes. You know, all of the other mimic types are bipedal, and the rook is the only one that's a quadruped.
Interesting. Okay. So let's say that you mentioned it's not really a hive mind, right? But there is some level of control, and as far as we know in book 1, the bishop is the one controlling.
Indeed.
Let's say that the control is cut off. The bishop is killed. What does a rook do? You said pawns have their own thought process.
If the bishop is killed, what does the rook do?
Right.
Rook is useless.
So it just shuts down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. There was a point where when that happened, if that happened, fuck it, that happened.
We're on book 2 now.
Yeah, we're on book 2 now. So what happened was when the rook bishop was killed, it was about to unleash a devastating attack, and that attack was from the rook. He made the rook transform into a giant cannon and used the power of a star to pretty much blow up the continent. But before they could do that, they managed to kill
the
bishop. And what that did was that caused the rook to power down and just become dormant in the gun form, still aimed at the sky, like a volcano that you don't know when it's gonna go off, if it ever does.
Yo, that's intimidating as crap.
And it's too big to move, so they couldn't do nothing about it except just live with it.
And it's too big to kill.
It's too big to kill, because its shields are different. It like creates like a shock wave out of its shield if you damage it enough, and it will harm things that are around it.
That's crazy.
It's supposed to be the ultimate weapon that's unstoppable, but it has a major weakness, which is the bishop. If you take out the bishop, the rook is useless. But if you keep the bishop around, which he usually controls it from afar, hidden somewhere, that thing will be unstoppable. It's like a boss that you can't beat unless you beat the little dude that's hiding somewhere, and then you win.
That's crazy. All right, so we've been introduced to 3 of the alien types. That's all 3 of these alien types were introduced in book 1, right?
The first book introduced the pawn, bishop, and rook.
Okay. Let's talk about the first book. Who are the main characters and what's the story?
The first story, it pretty much focuses on Alexander Jason Watkins and Jessica Von Warner, right? They're both from Human Base 5, but situations caused Jessica to have to move to HBO 6.
Okay.
Right. So their goal is to find a way to properly defend themselves from the mimics, because as of right now, Humans are brought to the brink of extinction. The only ones that are left are fighters, and it's a losing battle. So they need to figure out how to survive if they're gonna make the next step forward into winning the war. And fortunately, due to particular events, they were able to turn the tide, right? Because you see, Jessica Von Warner is what they call a mimic expert. Each base has a mimic expert, someone who focuses on researching and understanding the enemy, right? Now, she only became that because of her father, who was more of a mimic expert than she was. She just pretty much absorbed what he was talking about because she was always around him.
Right.
And what he's done is he developed a virus that would mess with the programming of the default mimic, not the one that's controlled by the hive mind, the individual, where if this mimic were to kill any organic being, it will absorb the personality and the likeness of that person and become that person. So the main character, Alex.
That was probably a spoiler.
Is it?
Yeah.
How?
Well, book one, we don't really figure that out to the end.
Yeah, but we know that Alex is a mimic.
Yeah.
We've known that from the beginning.
We know he's a mimic.
He was a mimic in chapter 1.
Or at the very least, we don't think Alex is a mimic, at least from when I read it, right? It was more like Alex was human, and he inherited mimic abilities.
So he has mimic powers, and everyone around him thinks he's an enemy trying to trick them because they're like, you're a mimic. You have mimic abilities. You have the eye. You're a mimic.
But Alex doesn't believe that. He thinks that, because we're on book 2, so at this point... Yeah, I'm not saying don't say the spoiler. I'm just saying anybody that's interested in reading the story, if you don't like spoilers,
yeah, I mean,
go read the book.
We could put a spoiler warning on here.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, if you don't want spoilers, go to this time.
Go read the book.
Go to this time.
Move ahead.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so Alex...
we could even talk about this in
Alex is a mimic.
Alex is a mimic.
But he
thinks himself a human, yes.
Everybody else around him knows he's a mimic. Because... it's not possible for a human to have any of those abilities.
Exactly. It's biologically impossible.
Right. So by the end of the book, Alex realizes that he is in fact a mimic.
More than that.
What?
He's not just a mimic. He's the mimic that killed the original Alex. So he's not even Alex.
So because of the virus that you said that doctor created, it turned the mimic that killed Alex into Alex? Or at the very least, he took on Alex's persona, his memories,
which means technically Alex isn't the main character. The mimic is.
That's kind of crazy because the book is called Mimic, and it's about that mimic, the mimic that.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy?
Took on Alex's.
Persona. You know what another thing is?
What?
He considers himself a mimic now.
Right.
But the mimics never consider themselves mimics.
What do the mimics call themselves?
They call themselves the amalgam. They are the amalgamation of knowledge in all things. They can turn into everything. They know everything.
Right.
They are amalgam.
That's cool.
So they call themselves amalgam, and the only people that call them mimics are the enemy.
Because they're just saying what they do.
Yeah, they mimic things. So we called them mimics. They didn't have they didn't have, they're in war. They're not going to think of a super scientific name. We're going to give it something simple, something that we can think that, okay, we hear this word, they're the enemy. All right, I'm not going to do no more research because we don't got enough time.
Right.
We're being shot at as we speak.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And that's actually, wow, that's pretty cool. So Alex the mimic, right, is different from Alex the person.
Mm-hmm.
Do we ever get to see Alex the person again in the series?
Well, what I like to do in all of my stories is mix science with religion.
Okay.
And sometimes give science, and then where science is lacking, bring religion into it.
To answer those
questions that science is... Yeah, exactly. So what happens in this is Alex, the mimic, is actually being haunted by Alex the human. But instead of Alex the human being angry, vengeful, the typical ghost type nonsense, he is more of a guardian angel to him. Right? He has no ill will against this Alex, and he's even helped him out during his low points, And at first, he thought he was just seeing things, but...
I gotta chill. It's a little cold in here.
You cold?
Yeah.
I'm chilling.
Got the goosebumps.
So, yeah. So, he's looking over him in low points. He appeared in the first book at the end saying, yo, get your shit together.
Right.
And then he'll appear later, but that'll be in the third book.
Why do you think, not why do you think, because you wrote it, but why did you decide to make Alex the human take on this role of being a support system for Alex the Mimic?
It probably has something to do with the fact that I didn't want it to follow any tropes, because if I was gonna bring human Alex back and him be a ghost, typically the ghost would be there to say mean things and be like, you killed me, you son of a bitch. And then Alex is like, no, it wasn't my fault.
Right.
No.
Just stir the pot.
Yeah, and all of this stupid drama for no reason. Right. It's unnecessary.
I appreciated it when I was reading book 1. I really liked the fact that Alex the human came back and was almost like this big brother role for Alex the Mimic.
Yeah.
Because even though you have you have all his memories, you have his appearance, you yourself are not him. And that you don't necessarily know how to react.
And he actually did help him out because, Alex the Mimic was like, man, I stole your life and all of this stuff.
Right. Like, he was
like, how are you going to forgive me for that? And he's like,
right.
You didn't steal my life.
Like,
you killed me, but you didn't steal my... Do you think I would be able to go through the things that you've been through?
Right.
The way you overcome issues is like a mimic.
Right.
I would have never been able to do that. I can't.
He's like, bro, I died from you.
Right. Like, you killed me. You think I'm going to be able to do
right.
the
I
shit that you can do?
Nothing.
Can I turn my arm into a cannon?
No.
This is how you be killing people.
Right.
You turn your arm into a cannon. I can't do that. You have seemingly infinite ammo, super speed, right? You could go invisible, right? And you can turn into an actual mimic and go on a freaking rampage like I would never be able to.
So Alex the ghost, right, the human, he was able to show Alex the Mimic that he's much more than just a copy. That he put himself in.
Alex the Mimic saw himself as a copy.
Right, and you're not a copy.
Whereas
you're better than the original.
Well,
it sucks to say it like that.
It's not better, he's different.
I say better as in he's more capable of fighting back against the mimics. He can go much further. His potential is much higher than Alex the human.
Yeah, okay. He's better.
He's better. He's not a copy.
Yeah.
But he needed to be told that. He needed that catharsis.
Yeah, because at this point in time, he was going to give up. He was like, bro, this means nothing. Like, I'm just a copy, man.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here for, like, the end of time. Because I'm not going to rust away. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to, I'm not going to starve to death. I'm just going to sit here until the heat death of the universe.
That's crazy. Like, the depression, it kicked in for him so fast when he realized the truth.
Yeah, I mean, this already happened before. He has experience just sitting and meandering, doing nothing for months. Mm-hmm. Because in the beginning of the book, something bad happened to him where he was still connected to Alex's memories, thinking that he was Alex. So when he found out something that Alex would be devastated at, he was devastated, and that caused him to sit in place without moving for months. And he was just sitting there like this, contemplating. Meanwhile, Havoc was running amok around him. The enemies were attacking. The other sides were attacking. And the battles were pretty much flowing around him like water. He was just a stone in the middle of a stream. For months. Just trying to, come to terms with everything. Like, he find out this, he find out that. He's just like, bro, this is... He pretty much, he had like a 3-month-long panic attack.
That's crazy.
And he was just sitting there still, just trying to work out all of his stuff.
He put himself in a coma.
He just put himself in a coma for 3 months. He was aware. He was just ignoring and not caring about the world around him. And being that he wasn't seen as a threat from the enemy at that point in time, they ignored him too.
Wow. That's interesting you say that, because you said that mimics were, well, amalgam. They're like vindictive and they're sadistic.
Yes,
right?
but they have one rule.
What's their rule?
They never kill or harm their own. So even if they see him there, they register him even though he looks like a human right now, but they can tell that he's not. He's a mimic. So they're going to leave him alone.
Right.
Right? They don't know why he's doing that, but it doesn't matter. He's not harming us.
Right.
I don't see an issue. He didn't become an enemy until he killed one. Wow. And that took a while.
Now, jog my memory, but I remember when he first killed a mimic, the mimic's eye flashed blue.
Yep.
Right before it died.
Yep.
Tell the audience what that means.
If a mimic's eye flashes blue, that means they either learned something or they're transferring information somewhere else. Okay. So when he killed that mimic, before it died, showed pretty much his entire kind, wherever they are, whether it be on this planet, whether it be on other planets, anywhere in the universe. They now know that this mimic has gone rogue and that he kills his own kind. So now they know this mimic that is designated Alexander Jason Watkins of Human Base 5 is a threat to us.
Wow. That reminds me of the symbiote, the way symbiotes work, how their experiences are shared throughout the universe and even multi-dimensionally. So, okay. So that's Alex's story, or rather, both Alex's stories. Because we know that the initial Alex, his story ends in the beginning of the book and then picks back up at the end of the book when you realize he's a ghost and he's the ghost of the original Alex that died. The mimic.
Yeah, we could call it Alex the Mimic and then Alex the Guardian.
Right. So Alex the Guardian's story ends at the end of book 1.
No.
So he continues throughout the other books?
He doesn't show up in book 2.
He doesn't show up in book 2.
Because there's no point in book 2 where Alex really needs him. He only shows up at Alex's lowest of lows or the brightest of brights. Like, hey man, pick yourself up. Or, hey man, good job. Okay. But if you're just doing what you gotta do, you don't need help, you know what you gotta do, why do you need to show up for that? You don't need to show up.
Well, I wanted to speak on Jessica Von Warner, right? Because she's obviously this character that I appreciated. She was a strong female character, but the way you did it was why I appreciated it, right? Normally when we see, let's compare it to Marvel. Everybody knows Marvel. You see a movie like Captain Marvel where you have this character that they would call a Mary Sue. She has everything already within her. It's just a matter of her recognizing it, and then she's just this badass. She needs no training. She needs nothing special, nothing like that.
I had fun writing Jessie.
But let's write, like, Jessie was different because Jessie was this character that, at least for me, she showed growth. She was already smart, but they explained why, because she learned from her father. But they showed that she still has that inquisitive nature. So she was still attempting to learn about Alex and experiment on her own, unbeknownst to him, with him. Against the
base orders. Yeah, they was like, yo, stay away from him. He's the enemy. She's like, I do what I want.
Right. So she's going against the grain. She's learning, and as she's learning, she's growing more attached to him, and she's growing. And he even trained her in some sense, because I know that at one point in the book, she was training him how to use his powers, and they were going against each other just to try and see who would win and just test their abilities. She won the first time, but Alex learned and then defeated her because he realized in order to defeat the group of humans, he would have to take her out of the equation.
I'm digging in my memory bank. I'm like, what scene are you talking about?
Like
no, it's not a long time. I remember almost everything about my stories, but I'm trying to pick up what exact moment you're talking about, and I know exactly what moment you're talking about.
Yeah, he took her out of the battle and he put her in
It was during a training montage. Right. She was the informative person. She knew the weaknesses of the mimic, how to do it. She even took the first blow that disoriented him and allowed the team to overwhelm this mimic. Right. So then his eye, I'm pretty sure his eye flashed blue because then he learned something new. He's like, all right, this lady is a problem. Right. So we need to take her out, and then once she's gone, it's over.
And he did.
So what he did was, what did he do? He shot the floor that blinded everybody. And
it was like smoke.
No. He went invisible. And then she was immediately about to say, hey, this is what you gotta do. Right? And then before she got to, he appeared around everybody, kind of ambushed them, picked her up, and then flew away as fast as he can. Placed on the top of a tree, booped on her forehead, said, hey, you are dead. And then he flew back to the team. And she was like, well, shit. I wasn't fast enough when I was giving the advice. Right. And now without her, the team got bodied.
Because they don't have
They don't know what to do. They didn't have the insight. They didn't know what to do against this mimic.
But I appreciated that Jesse learned from that experience too. When we see Marvel movies, we see a lot of these strong female lead characters. There really is no lessons that they learn. There's no growth.
Yeah, no, they start at the top, they stay at the top, and then...
Throughout the entirety of the movie, comic, whatever have you, there's no real progression from anywhere to somewhere else. And it gets boring. Right. But with Jessie, you could see where she started at, and, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but where she ended up is totally different. Like, she went through.
I mean, we could talk about the first book and the second book because they're out now.
Right. We don't want to spoil book 3.
Yeah, no. Book 3 gets
book 2 after the human base 5 gets obliterated. They have to move to a new base. Right.
But wait, hold on now.
What?
Because we talked about the origins of Alex. Let's talk about the origins of Jesse.
Okay. Well, from what I remember, Jesse is the daughter of the doctor. And they just call him the Doctor.
The whole book, yeah. His name wasn't given until the second book.
Until book 2.
Yeah.
And the Doctor is the person that created the virus, right? And this virus is what actually created Alex the Mimic. So Jessie is the Doctor's daughter. She has more or less what he knows as a part of her consciousness.
As a base.
She was his student.
Yeah,
his
basically.
Protege,
it's like,
right?
And it wasn't even like that. It was just like, you can't just hire a babysitter.
No, so she was always around him. So she was with him.
Yeah, she learned just by exposure.
Right.
Not from she, and then, he's a good dad, so she would be like, look, you see, this is when you take the very highly scientific word and connect it to the other highly scientific word, and that's how you make a big ass rocket ship. You get that, honey? She's like, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah.
But she ended up being a really good inventor.
Yeah, exactly.
She was an awesome engineer. But so you have her. She starts off that way. That's how we meet her. But we also see that there's this level of defiance in her character.
Oh, hell yeah.
But that defiance, at least for me, reading the books from book 1 to book 2, it changed. There was a shift in her personality. She was this fun-loving, go-lucky person.
Yeah,
super defiant, but also cute about it.
She really didn't care about a lot of things.
Right.
All she cared about was killing the mimics.
Right.
Right? So it's like, if you get hurt, you'll be all right. Come on, let's go.
Right. She was just like super optimistic all the time.
Yeah. And then another thing that I added was her sense of humor.
Oh, her sense of humor was interesting, right? Because I guess you can give the explanation because it's not in the book, which is, yeah.
So originally, when I was writing the synopsis of Mimic before I wrote it back in college, I wrote Jesse was promiscuous, right? And then as I always say that my writing style is evolutionary. I change based off of the events that I present before the characters. So she started, doing her playful flirting and stuff like that. And then as time progressed, I sensed that it wasn't her just flirting, it was her sense of humor, right? She has a flirtatious sense of humor. And in some instances, her sense of humor is also kind of immature, So this is a genius, right, who can dissect an entire mimic, but she would laugh at, booty jokes. And, if you say duty, she'd probably be like,
But it kind of makes sense because she was young during a time of war.
Yeah, so this is normal to her.
She had no social development. Yeah, book smarts, top notch.
But yeah, no, she...
But no social development.
You know how they say humor kind of hides the truth? She was flirting with Alex like from day one.
But why?
Well, honestly, she has a thing for mimics. She's a weirdo. She's a weirdo. Like, don't kink shame or nothing. Everybody got a kink, but she has a mimic kink.
I know that we talked about it. It's not in the book, but she saw.
It was actually plot related, because when she was younger, her dad he had to go and do something, and she was alone because her dad, in order to make the virus, he captured a bunch of mimics and isolated them from the program. Mm-hmm. And what that did was that made them individuals.
Right.
But they still felt the need to serve their people. Mm-hmm. Just because you get rid of the hive mind doesn't get rid of the worker bee.
But they served their people by trying to reproduce.
Yes, they're trying to get enough numbers so that they can feel bold enough to fight back. At the point, there was only like 2 of them.
Right.
So what they decided to do was, right, because Jessie was watching them because she was just curious and fascinated about these aliens. She didn't sense the danger in them yet because she only seen them in a controlled environment. Mm-hmm. Right? So they talked to each other in their own metallic tongue, and eventually they decided to transform into male and female, and they bred right in front of her. And that's what caused this fascination with flirting with mimics. But she never got the opportunity to when she was older because they're the enemy. But now that she sees this mimic that's trying to be friends with them, they're like, oh.
So she saw her chance.
Target acquired.
It's like she had a fetish, low key.
Yep, and she's taking it.
Right.
But even though that was taken out for reasons that Hutch deemed weird, it
was the audience. We weren't sure.
It did have a plot relevance, and the plot relevance was that being that these metallic robotic creatures can mimic life so well that they can even repopulate through breeding
like humans do.
Whereas they don't need extra materials or stuff from the universe. It's all them and cellular division. Mm-hmm. Their numbers are infinite.
Right.
Because their incubation process for mimics, if they were to go this route, is not that long.
It's not 9 months.
It's not 9 months. They can speed it up like a freaking bread in a microwave.
That's crazy.
So they could just smash, make another one, smash, make another, smash, make another one. And it actually bothered Jessie because she knows about this, right? So every time they fight pawns, it's never victory. It's like, we could take out 1,000 of them, but we got these couples over here that we don't know about smashing and making 1,000 more.
Why do you think that she decided to take this optimistic approach? Because I would say like a person would probably be really pessimistic.
Well, for one, she knew about the virus because her dad was working on it. Mm. So when she saw the signs of it in Alex, that's what made her excited. And in reality, she's not optimistic. She's playing optimism.
She's pretending.
She's pretending to be optimistic. And it kind of slipped at the end of the first book where she kind of snapped and started, self-harming herself. But even before then, she had a sign where, for one, she's always just saying, all right, come on, stuff happens, let's keep going. And she said a line where she said, someone has to have hope that hope is still out there. So that's not even like, if you said, let's hope that something out there, all right. But hoping that there's hope, that's as if you don't even know if there is hope. You're just hoping there is.
Right.
But you don't know why.
Like her optimism wasn't based in anything that she believed.
It wasn't based in reality.
It was just her choosing to be optimistic even though she really
she's like,
no reason.
We're in a losing war. We're probably going to all die. Yeah. Let's go out with a friggin' smile on our face.
That's crazy. I know in book 2, after what happened in book 1, happened. Book 2 is some months later. Jessie's a totally different character.
Well, it's because of what happened in the first book. So she actually becomes a superhuman.
Right.
Because what happened is Alex, he's being assaulted in the mind by the Rook. And
by the bishop.
By the bishop. Why do I keep saying that? Why I keep mixing it up? By the bishop. And to get him out of it, she puts herself in harm's way. Because at this point in time, their relationship they're tight. They're tight. Right? Good friends. They're not dating. They're really good friends. Right? And he cares about her. I'm pretty sure more than she cares about him at this point. But she knows how to get him out by using herself. So she put herself in harm's way and got mortally injured.
That's manipulation.
It is, but it needed to be done to save humanity. Right? She's smart. Right? Manipulative or not, it needed to be done in order for the betterment of mankind. So she does that, and he snaps out. He does his little thing, his little rampage, because the mimics, they're very calculated and they're not really used to fighting someone of their level that's flailing around like a brute, right? So he's going through them. When they flee, picks her up. He's like, what the hell? He sees that she got multiple broken bones. Her legs are done. Her heart is rapid, like it's trying to do something. She's probably about to go into cardiac arrest or have a damn heart attack from what the hell happened to her. And he's like, what do I do? He gets an idea. He scans her body and then mimics her DNA, right, to pretty much make her type of blood, injects her with her own blood that he made, but it's now infused with mimic DNA. And what that did is that gave her accelerated healing, superhuman strength. Her brain is going to get, a lot bigger. But not physically, but she's going to get a lot smarter.
Right.
And she doesn't need to eat no more. She doesn't need to sleep no more. And she can understand the language that the mimics talk to each other in. So all of this did change her. Like in the beginning, she was still like, haha, what to do? I'm a superhuman now. But that was just the beginning, because the development of her abilities didn't start to grow until she gained more power. And as her power grown, she became more and more robotic, lacking emotion. But it's not because of, hey, I'm a robot now. It's because of the issues that she had to deal with. All of the mental changes could have been avoided, but she doesn't have she doesn't really know how to deal with trauma. So if she finds herself in a traumatic experience, she would bottle that up, focus on work, and due to her new abilities, she could just go non-stop. She don't need to eat, don't need to sleep. She could just keep going.
So it's just more extreme.
Yeah. So, yes, her personality did change, but it was still there, right? She was more serious, but she was still goofy, right? She just had problems that she had to get through. Not to mention, they had a falling out at the end of the first book, and it wasn't really resolved into the second book. So that was another thing that changed her personality.
Right, because Alex disappeared.
Alex disappeared at the end of the book, and she didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Right? That mixed with the new villain, the Purple Eye, the Knight, right? It terrified her.
Right.
So she needed to find a way to do this without him, because she never knew if he was coming back. But while she was doing that, it was like, 3 months or so that passed? She was stressed the entire time. She kind of used, I want to say probably used Alex as like a stress relief. Not in that way. But she was like, he's here, he's security. We have their power. But now that he's gone, we don't have that power anymore, and that's stressing her out.
Right.
So she went so far because the human base that they was living in got destroyed, and they had to move. Right? And when they went to this new place, everybody had to rebuild from scratch. She rebuilt her house the same exact way it was when he was there. She even built a guest room in case he came back, but she never knew if he was or not. So that was her hoping that he would come back, but she never knew.
Yeah, that sucks.
But eventually he came back, and that was good for everyone. You know, she was able to relax a little bit more. You know, she was still very stressed, but less so now that he was back.
Well, that's a good thing. Definitely by the end of the book, when she had that major victory.
What end of what book? Oh, end of the second book.
Right. She had that major victory, but it was cathartic, right? Because the person she defeated, spoiler alert, was her father.
Yes.
And
that's another thing that I did a lot.
Right.
In the first book, Alex did all the damage. She was the one that dealt the final blow.
Right. In
this book, in the second book, Alex did all the damage, and she delivered the final blow.
True.
She's pretty much always I don't remember because it's been a while since I reread over the third book, but I'm pretty sure Alex did all the damage. But I don't know if she dealt the final blow or not. So I'm going to have to reread book 3 to figure that out. But I know in the second book, Alex did all the damage. Then he took a lot of damage, had to back it up, and then she dealt the final blow.
She had to be the finisher. But that's a lot of responsibility, especially because in the second book, the person that she had to finish was her father.
Right. So what happened with the whole virus situation, and this is the reason why the falling out of the first book. Jessie, in the back of her mind, hated Alex. And it's because he is the one that returned and not the father. So for the whole part, you make the virus, you go off to try and test this damn virus, and you never come back. Right? So in the second book, he finally comes back. Right? Also, kind of weird with connecting things. I'd be going forward and backwards, but if I were to go backwards, the reason why she hates the father, the Alex, is because he came back, he didn't. And when she finds out that he was alive, or rather, the memory version was, she's like, "Why didn't you come back?" Right? And he was like, "I'm only one person, right? I needed to stay here and learn as much as I can so that I can, when I do eventually try and come back, I have enough information that will turn the tides like 100%. But the problem with that was the more information that he took in from the mimic, the less of his human side that he started to
he
forget.
Became more mimic, less human. Which sucks because
he did genuinely try and help. He wanted to help.
But what it showed her is that, and it's not that this is a right or wrong thing, right? But
it's war.
He prioritized the war.
The many over the few.
Being her. Mm-hmm. He prioritized the war over her. Yeah. And as a daughter, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because it's like.
But she's also.
You left me.
She's also, I don't want to say as emotional. She's very emotional, but she's also very logical. So yeah, she was hurt, but she understood.
She understood, but I think that her having to kill him before she could actually.
Oh no, this was beforehand when they re-met. He explained the stuff that she did, sorry I don't remember you all that well, because I do remember you, right? But you weren't this big. Right. I remember my daughter. My daughter was like this tall, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you look like her, but how would I supposed to make the connection?
Yeah, the connection is not the same.
The memories not the memories, but the familiarity came back when they hugged and stuff. She's like, I remember this type of embrace. But it's so foreign now. Yeah. He doesn't even call himself by his actual name. The Altman von Werner is his real name. He calls himself the Doctor.
It doesn't feel like a memory, but more like a dream.
Yeah. He's like, listen. He's like, I know that Altman is the one that died, and so people, you can call me the Doctor. Right. Altman is dead. Don't call me Altman. Call me the Doctor. It's fine.
So he's acknowledged.
He's acknowledged that yes, he acknowledged what
he created it, so he knew what it was.
He knew what was going to happen. Yes. So
and she was looking for her father. Mm-hmm.
And she kind of found it within him, but it's not him, but it acts like him. Mm. So it was kind of the same issue with Alex, but kind of in reverse. Like it did make Alex feel some type of way because he was like, "Oh, it's been so long since I seen you. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness." And I was like, "You just lied to me about. Now you acting like that's the person." Right. But he didn't. He kind of held back because it was her moment, right? So. She's just happy to be with a part of her dad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And throughout the chapters, you know, I mean, they don't interact with that's non-war really, but I did put a chapter in there where it's a little downtime, even though it was him telling her to go hang out without him. It was still like a moment that was calm. Like,
Yeah, that was a cool chapter.
yeah, it was like he still has the fatherly instincts, right? They're working on making the virus again, and she's working there. Alex and Aristotle. I didn't talk about Aristotle. Aristotle is another mimic from book 1, but he's damaged.
Yeah,
He doesn't. He has a broken antenna. He doesn't get any feedback from the hive mind, and he doesn't have any base programmings. What Aristotle actually is one of the children of the mimics that
were captured by the doctor.
No, is the
reproduced.
the one that Jesse saw
Mm-hmm.
them breeding. He was one of the kids,
Right.
and when they found him, they took him in because they realized that he's harmless and he's at basically factory reset. We don't know what his purpose is, so I want to study him.
Right.
So they kind of brought him in because, you know, her personality, her sense of humor. He basically said that she's the mom, Alex is the dad, and Alex is like, yo, stop, man, why you making it all weird?
Right.
And so Alex and Aristotle goes on a little side mission to get some food. You know, there's no real wildlife on the surface anymore.
Yeah.
So they go to under the seas to get some fish. So they
gotta go pretty deep.
They gotta go pretty deep. Jesse wanted to go just to hang out, but she's like, I gotta focus on his. So she was like, I'm going now. She was like, great. You know, she was refusing to eye contact because the more she looks, the more she's gonna want to go.
And that's when the doctor.
And the doctor picked up on that. He was like, you want to go, don't you? Yeah. He was like, what? No. What? No. We gotta focus on this thing. Beep, boop, boop, bop. And she's like, it'll be fine. You can go. He's like, really? He's like, yeah, go. He's like, woo! And she got so excited and she ran out there like a little kid again. It kind of brought out the child in her again.
Right.
So
that was a good chapter.
Yeah, and then that's when we realized that she has a fear of the ocean.
Yeah, and that mimics when they transform into certain animals, they also take on those characteristics of those.
Well,
animals.
not just that, no, because they've also found more mimics that were like Aristotle.
Right,
but
damaged.
They were damaged, and they mimicked because they needed to survive because they were so damaged that their energy doesn't really it doesn't grow again if they expend it, so they have to eat. They have to eat. Yeah. So they turn into animals and they eat and they act like animals around each other, and they were just a bunch of wild animals.
That chapter was crazy. When I read it, I was like, "Dang, man! Like, I would love to see."
It wasn't foreshadowing. It was more.
It was just cool.
No, it wasn't just for cool sake. It was to go into the mind of mimics.
Explain how they operate.
Yeah, it wasn't that. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have an army of animalistic mimics fighting against it. No.
Do you ever think that you would create a short story about the mimics in that animal kingdom, those damaged mimics?
I mean, sure, but there'd be no dialogue. They can't speak. It's all just mimics, they make metallic hums and clanks at each other to speak, right? But it's a language. For them, it's just metallic grunts, right? And if they're not grunting at each other like cavemen, they're in their animal forms, whether it be like a cheetah, a lion, or whatnot, and they're just playing with each other. It's like a documentary, except we're talking about mimics that mimic animals.
Right. And of course, because they're mimics, they're not going to eat other mimics.
No.
But they'll eat anything else.
No, because they consider themselves family. They're like even though they transform into different animals, like one could be a wolf, one could be a lion.
That was a strange thing. It's like you're seeing a little eagle standing next to a cheetah.
And but they all consider themselves to be a part of a pack.
Right.
So they're not gonna harm each other because they need each other.
It was like Transformers. You remember the Beast Transformers?
Yeah. But they don't. But mimics don't transform. No, their body kind of liquefies and morphs into that thing.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, I gotta say, for book 2, I really loved the development of Jesse. That's where all this came from, right? And I also appreciated the development of another character called Marcus. And we don't have an immense amount of time left. We have a few minutes, but I want you to briefly explain who Marcus was.
What do you mean was? Marcus is...
Was.
Shut up. Marcus is a jaded veteran. He showed up in book 1, chapter 1 as well, alongside Jesse. I think he actually showed up first.
Yeah.
He showed up before Jesse did.
He captured Alex.
He's the one that captured Alex, shot him down.
Yep.
And this was back when he still thought that he was human, Alex. Mm-hmm. Right? So he's just walking, minding his business, and he got sniped by one of the peoples, and it turns out to be Mark. Mm-hmm. Captured him. They're like, why are you acting like a human this long and stuff like that? What's going on with you? And then that's when Jesse kind of showed up and took over the whole scene. Right. But Marcus, he hates mimics, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the reason, when
he got a good reason.
He got a good ass reason. Like I said, when mimics find themselves dominating, they play and toy with their opponent. So he's fighting the mimics, but he has to go home for whatever reason, and he's married. He's married, and his wife is pregnant, like late term. She got the big thing, that bun is almost well done, right? And so he goes. She's like, "Honey, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Yo, we under attack. This shit's crazy out there," right? And then he loves his wife, notices every detail about her face. He noticed a change. The eye was green, right? So that means that wasn't his wife. That was a mimic. The mimic transformed into his pregnant wife to lower his guard. Like, oh, I'm okay. What's going on out there? Nope, you know what's going on out there, you alien bastard.
Wait, but was this during the first invasion?
This was probably it's part of his backstory.
So Marcus, how did he know about the eye?
He didn't. He just knew.
Oh, he just noticed the eye was different.
Yeah,
color.
He's like, yo, your eye isn't green. What the fuck?
So he's like kind of just questioning, like,
yeah, he's like, what the
hell?
What's
going on with you?
And then when he did that, the mimic was like, oh well, the
jig is up.
Yeah, the jig is up. Oh well, stab. He tried to stab him, but Marcus, he ran to the other room. He managed to somehow. He's a trained army dude, so he did some maneuvers or whatnot. And then when he went to the other room, that's when he saw his wife dead. His wife was dead on the floor, still pregnant and all of that stuff too. So he lost his entire family. And the mimic came for him. Now no longer taking the appearance of the wife, I think. And Mark used the grenade to kind of get out of there. And then he took his wife's wedding ring, and now he wears it on his pinky, his left pinky. So yeah, he hates mimics, and it took him a while. It took him a long time to like Alex. Like, for the most part, until... Let me see. There was a time where Alex, he got hurt protecting him. Mm-hmm. That's when Mark was like, all right, you're good. But it took a while. It took a long time. Because he knew that mimics don't attack their own kind, and Alex attacks his own kind. But even with that knowledge, he was still iffy about them. Mm-hmm. It took him a long time to trust Alex.
I don't think he really trusted Alex until maybe the middle of book 2.
I think before then. Cause
he didn't trust Alex in book 1.
By book 2, they were homies.
Book 1, he trusted Alex?
Book 1, yes. The book 1, the trust was when he told Alex to call him Mark. That's when the trust was really set. Because he was like, I don't let anybody I don't like or trust in this base. He's the leader. If he don't trust you, you're not coming in here.
But he eventually did.
But after he was hurt and he was out of it for a couple of days, he woke up in the medical bay that was inside the thing. Right. And when he woke up, Mark was there. He was like, "You cool. You could call me Mark." At that point, their trust was pretty much solidified. So much so that when Aristotle was introduced, he was a rogue mimic, right? And it's just another mimic. We need to kill him. But now Alex is saying, hold on, wait a second. And instead of getting suspicious, like, what do you mean, wait a second? I thought you were one of us. He was like, he was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Right? He was gonna kill the shit out of Aristotle, but he was aimed at Aristotle, not Alex. Right. and then once they explained his entire situation, he didn't let his prejudice get in the way, and he was like, all right. And now by book 2, he's pretty much cool with the idea of some mimics being good.
Okay, so we have about a couple more minutes, but before we wrap, I just wanted to ask you a question for myself, right? Because
No, you wouldn't survive in that universe.
No, I wouldn't survive.
Okay.
Too nice.
Too nice.
And I got asthma. But
man,
from book 1, from the beginning of book 1 to the end of book 2, roughly how much time went by?
Well, there was well over a year. Well over a year, because remember, it took months for him to get over the traumatic event, Alex, in the beginning of the book. It took months. Right. Then when they travel, it takes days. Right. To and fro, because they can't drive anywhere. This ain't the early 2000s. I don't really tell what year this is because then if I say a year and then that year comes and it doesn't happen, people be like, so I'm just not gonna. I just say this isn't the early 2000s. That's it. Right. Training takes some time. More days pass. It was a lot of days. So I'm gonna say years. It took at least 1 year from the beginning of book 1 and the end of the second book. At least a year.
And then the very last thing. This is purely for the audience, people that are interested or on the fence about getting this book. How would you describe the people that this book is for?
People who like science fiction. That's it. People who like science fiction and they like stuff that reminds them of things that they might like. Because I did
like what?
Pay, like, if you like Terminator, this could be for you. If you like aliens and alien invasions, this could work for you. If you like war stuff, because for the first 2 books, pretty grounded when it comes to like battle. Mm-hmm. So this could be for you. And then for those who hold on for those first 2, if you really want space battles, book 3, that'll be for you. Right? Because that's the payoff because it's still science fiction, but I was holding off on the stuff that I really wanted to put in until the very end. Right. Because that's when it really mattered. Mm-hmm. Right? So in 3rd book, that's when all of the Star Trek stuff Star Wars. I wasn't really a big fan of Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek is cool.
I became a fan later on in life.
But I was a Star Wars kid. Yeah. Right? Like in the 3rd book, I pay homage to pod racing.
Oh, that was dope.
Yo, it was big ass pod race. I like pod racing. That was the coolest thing ever. They should have.
We'll go into that tangent at another time. But you say so fans of science fiction, Terminator, like aliens.
Yeah. Battle Los Angeles,
and like Star Wars.
Yeah.
They would really appreciate this book.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Maverick Talks. All right. If you want to buy Mimic book 1, 2, or when 3 comes out at the end of the summer, book 3, then you're definitely going to want to go to Black Maverick Comics. And just know that very soon, Mimic is going to be available on all major platforms. So get your copy today. Thanks for watching.